Thank you very much. We appropriately prioritize our clients and people who are local in our formats for the conference, so I'm given as little time as possible. What Mark said is right in the sense that we love going back and forth between our clients here and in the U.S. at all levels of government, and also a few clients we're fortunate to work with at the EU level, the European Space Agency and European Parliament and others. And part of that is because there's so many similarities. You know, I think a lot of you in central government or local authorities today probably took lessons from folks coming from another angle at some of the same problems and opportunities that you have. What we've seen over we've been working in the UK for about 10 years, and this is a particularly exciting time because 10 years ago, when I had conversations with people about communications around the country, it was very much seen as sort of overhead, something we need to do or reactive about. It was more about press releases and more about just talking about the agency or the organization in a way that was very much PR oriented in a sense. And what's happened over the last few years is this incredibly exciting convergence of communications with service delivery and with customer service. And you see these examples today, and they're just phenomenal examples, driving more people to events, promoting training, increasing revenue. Just over and over again, the connection between communications and the reality of the mission that you're trying to serve is exciting to see. So I would say 10 years ago, I found this is probably representative of a UK to US comparison that would be typical of a lot of things. But I thought that the average here was better than the average in the United States. And that, of course, we had some at the very high end and some at the very low end when I looked at what local government was doing and what central government was doing and compared them between the two countries. But this convergence and this incredible interaction that you're having between services and communications now to drive real results is something that the UK is leading on. And actually it's being recognized across the pond that there is really momentum here in terms of leading the way and using communications as a vehicle to create real impactful change. So I was trying to refresh my memory as to whether I made this joke last year or not, but I should have checked the video. How many people in here have been told to do more with less in the last week, year, day, hour? You probably have some text waiting for you from somebody. So this more with less idea is interesting, and if this is a comment made by one of our clients last year, it said, if I can always do more with less, then I can do everything with nothing. And the next time somebody brings up more with less to you, I suggest you try to explain to them the flawed logic that they're working with. But doing more by doing things differently is what we've heard a lot about today. And actually we heard from Carl specifically about doing less with less, changing and using communications to get service delivery pushed out to neighborhoods, getting your neighbors help shoveling maybe with the government as more of the infrastructure to that service than the provider of the service. So communications can be a driver of that, and I'm going to lead in here and I want to talk about the power of the message and some of the ways that you can have even more impact. I'm going to start though with hopefully a relevant story about how I got to this position. This is a picture that's supposed to be of me when I was younger, but I'm actually, I can tell you that the computers didn't look nearly that elegant when I was younger, and I've never had a watch that fashionable, so we couldn't find a real picture of me. In any case, when I was young, it might not surprise you to hear that my dream was not to work in software for the government. I had a dream of being a writer or a novelist, and I used to write stories and everything else, and as with, any aspiring writer, when I got to university, I decided to take a couple writing classes, and I got about halfway through, and there were 15 people in this class, and I thought, I'm holding my own. I knew I wasn't the best person in the class, and I had a good sense that I wasn't in the top 5, or possibly in the top 10, but I wasn't embarrassing myself. That's the basic standard I was meeting. And I asked my professor after class one day, I said, just curious, how many people have made their profession writing out of our university in the last few years. She said, it's interesting, I can think of a couple in the last 10 years who've done it. And I thought, well, if I'm in the introductory writing class and I'm in the bottom 5 out of 15, perhaps I should consider a different career path. So that's the explanation of why I didn't become a novelist, is that there's more to writing than sharing your stories with reluctant friends and family and a paid college professor. You have to get the audience. So when we think about our company, the first part of it is what do we have here? What have we done in the confines of our own organization? And we're really proud of the technology we provide. The capabilities, and a lot of which have been talked about from different angles today, have been designed not by us in isolation, but with feedback from clients who I often think of as our R&D lab. And whether it's messaging or the network, connecting people together, automation, different kinds of reporting and insight, we get very excited about that. But what gets me more excited about the work that we're doing together with you is the reach. The 1,000+ public sector clients working with the service, more importantly, the individuals that are being worked with, more than a couple million here in the UK. I think we're approaching 3 million now. Just an incredibly exciting real number. The number of messages being delivered, and the fact that those messages are being used and engaged with every day, and of course the number of people signing up. The fact that there was some conversation earlier about we talk about channel shift in terms of moving people from offline services to online services, but there's another kind of channel shift that we worry about and think about, and that is shifting between social media and email and text messaging and instant messaging and other things. And what we have found over the last couple years is this incredible momentum behind a multi-channel strategy and the power of using email at the center of it. And of course, smartphones and mobile devices have made email much more useful, in fact, than it was a few years ago, particularly for official communication. Not to the exclusion of other channels, but in fact reinforcing other channels. So, while I might have written a novel that got read by 5 people, we're very happy that the technology that we're building for you all is being used and having a real impact. So let's talk about the power of the message. So there's all kinds of math you can do behind the power of messaging, but it starts with the value of one message to one person. And if you can focus yourself that way and think about that individual message, it can make a real difference in the thought process of how you construct it and how you tie it into your mission objectives. Then, of course, the message has to be trusted. We just talked about that with HMRC. Do you trust the message that you're getting? Why do you trust it? Why would you trust it? And we'll talk about how to move the needle on that. And those two things together is the power of one message. And of course, the magic ingredient is that reach that you bring to the table. Not reach for its own sake, but relevant reach. Neil talked earlier about, it's not that they were seeking to have as many people signed up as possible, but when they were able to validate that they'd met users' needs by seeing that sign up, that's really something. So how do you move the needle on the value of one connection? Well, it starts by making a message timely and relevant. I was saying earlier that you can design the best message in the world, but you'll never beat the open rate of the subject line, earthquake in San Diego. We have clients out on the West Coast, and if you have an earthquake and you send out a subject line, I can guarantee you your design of that email does not matter. People will read it. In West Sussex, a message on school closures is obviously a timely and relevant message. And there are hundreds of examples that have gone out while I've been talking today, all across different public sector organizations. Many of you in this room have colleagues or have automated messages going out right now that are hopefully timely and relevant. Second way to make a message valuable is to connect it to your mission. Great message from MHRA talking about information sent to healthcare professionals about the safety of medicines. What's more directly connected to MHRA's mission? Something that at HMRC that encourages participation in the legal participation in the tax system and generates revenue is obviously directly connected. So ONS was saying earlier that they have a lot of traffic just out in the lobby here A lot of traffic to baby names, so people love to go and look at baby names on the ONS website, and that's awesome, and it's a great way to draw people into the website. But if you can use that traffic to bring people into getting the other information off of the ONS website that might be more relevant to their business or to their life or other things, you might be able to make the messages you're sending more mission connected by leveraging the areas where you maybe have high traffic but not as much mission connectivity. Third way to make one message valuable is to promote valuable actions. Pay your taxes, sign up for this webinar, come to this event, remember to put your bin out. There's a lot of different ways to do that. Great example from Biz, inviting people to participate in a seminar, not just asking them to read about enforcement, but inviting them to participate. And that action and that engagement is going to be highly valuable. It's something that generates a level of learning that hopefully prevents the other end of enforcement later. As we heard earlier, open this message or we'll find you. All right, gaining trust. So there's some really interesting things about trust. I was thinking earlier that if you want to be trusted in the US, you speak with a British accent. I'm not sure how it works over here, actually, so I'll just leave it at that. Maybe the statistics, and I think maybe the statistics here are from the US. You might be more trusting, I'm not sure. 30% of us would say that our trust in the general population sits at about 30%. So 3 in 10 people I'm going to trust. But once I have some familiarity with you, that goes to 7 out of 10. It doesn't say that we're related, we work together, we've conducted business or anything else. It just says I'm familiar. If you're familiar with something, your trust goes up. We have an amazing phenomenon. There's an amazing phenomenon with elected officials that 9 out of 10 people don't like elected officials, but 6 out of 10 people like their elected official. And this is sort of a similar kind of concept. So if you want people to have familiarity with you, you have regular communications with them, whether it's on something, I might say, I would never say as trivial as bin collection, because as I travel around this country, I would say that in some cases it's all about the bins. But something as regular as bin collection is directly connected with people as bin collection. That's just a terrific message to get out. And this isn't an earthquake, but Bolton didn't have to spice this up. It's just a simple bin collection reminder. It's directly relevant, and it's keeping in touch with their subscriber base, their contact base. There's another angle on trust and creating familiarity, which is that people trust others when they understand their stories. And the same thing's true with organizations. And there's amazing examples of that. Southampton just was showing the range of messaging that they send out. Here's a good example from West Sussex. Just telling some stories in the content. They might have the more direct informational message coming out this morning and this afternoon, the storytelling message. And getting a balance of those things is easy to do when you're creating as much content and have truly the great stories that you have in this room. Even though sometimes in our day-to-day lives, we don't even see the amazing stories happening in our own organization. This is a great example from DEC, talking about the British Energy Challenge, and it's written in really nice, plain English, beautiful story, beautiful pictures. Love it. Third angle is, we've talked about multi-channel strategy. So here we are, DSA, sending out a message. The message is going to go out to a bunch of people, right? And right at the bottom, they have the share button. So they're reaching their audience of people, thousands of people, with the message. But what if they send a message, you're willing to share it with someone you know who trusts you? That's an opportunity for them to launch content into social media through somebody that's going to be trusted by others. So I hit that share button, I put the message out on Twitter, I put the message on Facebook, I post it to my website, I send it out by email, and people are going to trust that message. And they get a lot of opens and clicks on the message, but they also get shared views from getting it out there into social media through their trusted stakeholder base, connecting with the stakeholder base's own trusted friends and family within primarily social media. All right, so we've got one message that's trusted. I will say that reach is, you can think of it, reach in a lot of ways as the flour that bakes your cake. You are, all of the organizations represented in this room are large organizations. You have a lot of stakeholders. You've got to feed a lot of people with information for communications to have a relevant impact. And if you look at what business communicators are thinking about, it's actually very similar to what you all are thinking about, and it requires real reach. 52% of content marketers want to increase engagement. 49% increasing traffic to website. This might not surprise you to learn this, but in business, it's a lot easier to actually break ties and to determine what's working in marketing, because if you looked at e-commerce marketers, they would say their number one objective is sales. And that tends to move everybody towards thinking about reach, right? You have it a little more complicated. But if you want to achieve engagement, traffic to the website, you've got to have reach. And you should think, as you're crafting your strategies for how many people you want to connect with, that one message to this one individual is one thing, but if you're trying to get out information on food safety or on major policy changes or on weather alerts, you'd much rather talk to a full room. And so you can ask yourself, in the digital space where we can sometimes get really focused just on what's happening on our website and in our email, ask yourself, what if I was getting this message out to 10 times more people? Is that 10 times more valuable? And the answer is usually going to be yes. So you have to balance that individual message creation with the objective of having an ongoing strategy for how you're going to build your audience. And I could spend all day talking about that, but I can share a couple of very simple examples. We've talked about DSA. Obviously, we talked about the sharing of the message, but getting a message out to 46,000 people now, when you might have gotten it out to 25,000 a couple years ago, is a really simple example of how some of these techniques can drive value and drive more reach. And let's look at Southampton, an example that's been well used today, but is a great example, doing a very good job. I think Rosanna said, they're constantly coming up with new places you can put the links and other things. In government, getting somebody to sign up to your content is a lot like getting them to add, it's like Amazon wanting you to add a product to your cart. It's your best way of getting validation, but they didn't come to your website to sign up for alerts, so you got to get in front of them. You have to be that sort of chocolate at the checkout counter in the supermarket that's right there for the taking. And Southampton does a great job of promoting the different options that they offer and being very specific, not saying get alerts from Southampton, but saying specifically what they're actually going to provide you with and why it might be valuable. And then doing it deeper in the website around school admissions updates, leisure activity news updates, and in many other places. We've talked a lot today about the GovDelivery network and the fact that many of the folks in this room are working so well together to cross-promote content, just like e-commerce providers cross-promote products, right? So if somebody comes into Southampton, they can see all the other things that they can subscribe to from other organizations, and an amazing number of people do that. And of course, these organizations are in turn going to promote Southampton's content, and everybody is going to see a lot more opportunities for building reach. ONS, the red bar there in the reporting shows the amount of subscription traffic sign-ups that they're getting from the GovDelivery network from working with others. It's adding over 500% to their subscriber base every month versus direct sign-ups from the website. I think it depends. HSE prefers a lot of people to other websites and organizations, and you can actually see HSE featured on the left. Gavin said he's not charging anybody for that yet, so be thankful. So some really good examples of building reach that way, building it off the website. Southampton's other examples of just mining the email databases around and the contact databases around your organization is the other best way to get people signed up. And since I am completely biased and obviously prone to say that the work is going very well, we have a couple of quotes here from both central government and local government. One here from ONS emphasizing the reach that they've seen by making some of these investments and looking at particularly the GovDelivery network and the collaboration between organizations. and another one from Vanessa at Norfolk, Norfolk's been a client for quite a long time. And again, talking specifically about increasing awareness and then connecting it directly to services and to the channel shift agenda. And Dave didn't warn me ahead of time about the bingo exercise, so I think I just broke it a couple times there. And I think that's it for me. I know that I want to point out that we are not having a 3-hour drinks opportunity. If you looked carefully at your agenda, there was some mix-up between American style of timekeeping and British style. So you can assume, I think we're going to be done with the happy hour after an hour and 15 minutes or so. So we'll have some brief time to connect and get everyone on their way. If you want to stay for 3 hours, we'll have to move outside to the bar.